Again, a warm welcome on a somewhat brisk Sunday morning. We are now in a period of ordinary time. As you can obviously see, we are back to the very basic green once again. It's a time that is a bit of an interlude, if you will, between the major liturgical seasons. The Christmas season is now, as they say, on the books. The camels have been retired for yet another year, and in 31 days we will be coming together for Ash Wednesday. It is now time to not so much focus on the actual events in the life of Jesus, if you will, how the ordinary can become extraordinary. It is a time to pay closer attention to what it actually means to be a disciple of Christ, particularly in our modern world, and most assuredly what it means in our larger church community. The same question that has remained unanswered for well over 2,000 years. What indeed does it mean to be a follower of Jesus Christ? And what is the cost of discipleship? What's it going to cost me to consistently follow? Is it a way to pay forward, if you will, or to be of service? That it is seen as an opportunity? Or is discipleship seen as really more of an inconvenience? Something I really should think about. I ought to do that. As a nation in turmoil and great division, as citizens of a world community, we continue to see war escalating all around us. As members of a larger church, we continue to be sucker punched by pronouncements that can only serve to alienate countless men, women, and children, seeking a welcome embrace from the very same church that welcomed them on the day of their baptism. We are confronted with far more questions than answers in regards to having a faith journey and how it impacts our life. In today's gospel, John the Baptist had just revealed to the two disciples that this Jesus is indeed the chosen one, the Messiah. They began to follow, and Jesus turns to them with a question. What are you looking for? They, in turn, attempt to respond to that question by asking Jesus yet another question. Where are you staying? Jesus simply responds by saying, "Come, and you will see." The Greek word translated as stay is actually more accurately understood to mean an abiding relationship, as opposed to an actual physical place. Loosely translated, you are where Jesus is. The place where Jesus resides is where the disciples are called and are willing to make their presence known, the presence of Jesus Christ. Discipleship is about being in the company of others who choose to not only follow, but who make a choice to be the presence of Christ in all life situations, come what may. Not optional. You either are for justice, compassion, unconditional love, and if you are that way in all situations, up or down. Being of service for others, not because of who they are or what they might do in return. You are of service to others because that's who you are. Bottom line. On this MLK weekend, as we sing, and we once again proclaim, we shall overcome. Where are we really with the ever-increasing price of discipleship? Where are we really in working to overcome injustice? How truly eager are we to come and see, as we heard the invitation in the gospel, when we find ourselves so painfully disenfranchised from so many of our political and religious leaders. At this time in our journey, I would suggest that it is more wise to be asking the difficult questions as to the pursuit of justice and not be willing to settle for the easy answers that lead absolutely nowhere. Our abundance can instill a need for us to feel bothered when it comes to discipleship, that it's a burden. It gets in my way. It is important to have the courage to respond in love, even in those times, and there are many where the questions far outweigh the answers. You could not be more prepared than you are today to be a discipleship of justice. You have what it's called for. As we celebrate and remember the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we also remember the powerful cloud of other witnesses who paid the ultimate price. Every single person I'm about to mention was murdered for what they chose to stand up and to believe in. Primarily justice. Everyone was murdered for attempting to overcome prejudice and fear. As we say today, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., murdered, 39 years old. Archbishop Oscar Romero, murdered, age 62. Gandhi, murdered, 78. Emmett Till, murdered, 14. Abraham Lincoln, murdered, 56. John Kennedy, murdered, 46. Robert Kennedy, murdered, age 42. Viola Liuzzo, an American civil rights activist, shot by Klansmen, murdered, age 39. Harvey Milk, murdered, age 48. Mayor George Moscone, murdered, age 49. Matthew Shepard, murdered, age 21. Addie Mae Collins, 14. Carol Robertson, 14. Cynthia Wesley, 14. Denise McNair, all murdered in 1963 while attending a church, and they were bombed in Birmingham, Alabama. 22,185 Palestinians killed, murdered in Gaza as a result of war since October 7th. 2/3 of that number that were killed, were murdered, were women and children. This has to stop. This war has to stop. The staggering price of discipleship when fear and hatred have their way. How do we make sense of the innocent suffering in our world and in our church as the volume of hatred and prejudice only seems to increase? How do we overcome someday that which defies human understanding and is void of all human compassion? How many times can you say, "I can't breathe," and have your voice willfully ignored? We are, for but a moment, tempted to be rendered silent, knowing always that silence cannot and will not be an option for those who believe in justice. We are either a part of the solution or indeed we are a part of the problem. We cannot expect to have it both ways. It has been said that when we're not hungry for justice, it's usually because we're too full of our own privilege. When we're not hungry for justice, it's because we're more taken by being filled up by our own privilege. I do believe that there is a liberating way to live in this world. I actually believe there's still a liberating way to live in this larger church. How, I don't know, but I do believe it. I do believe it. There really is the possibility of living a fundamentally unchained life, to be alive with God's life and in this world of ours. It is a dangerous and a liberating spirituality that we are called to be disciples of Christ. We are surrounded by this great cloud of witnesses that have gone on before us. We have the liberating Jesus as our pioneer in faith, who did not settle for being polite. Jesus simply did not choose to be just polite. It was a riveting message that he brought. And it is important today to ultimately always remember that it is indeed Jesus Christ who is our ultimate church leader and authority. It is Christ. No human being currently living in any leadership position trumps Jesus Christ as our leader. It is indeed who we take our direction from. As I frequently love to remind the good people of St. Joan of Arc, and again hear this, "And the moon said to me," the moon said to you, the moon says to St. Joan of Arc, "My darling, you do not need to be whole in order to shine. If you wait to be whole, it's a waste of time. None of us are going to get there. Nonetheless, we are still called, and we can indeed still shine. We are deliciously imperfect, and we are indeed able to shine. We have been shown a way over and over again. May we not simply dismiss those times that we feel that we cannot breathe as a result of injustice and fear. St. Joan of Arc, on this MLK weekend and every day that we share this journey, may we be more willing to be dangerous. May we be more willing to be in good trouble. May we be willing to always work for justice without condition. Amen.